Hare Krishna, dear devotees. You're all welcome to this session where we are discussing gems from Srimadbhagavatam. We are presenting these gems so that we can all together enliven our, existence, purify our existence, as well as continue to grow together. Hare Krishna. So today we are covering a very important verse. This is from the activities of the Prachetas in 4th canto, chapter 30th. The verse number is 35. I'll share my screen. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please join us in the recitation prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiriyet Shavatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shamana Kirtanaha Hridayantastho Hya Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhasatam Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagvat Sevaya Bhagavatir-uttam shloke bhaktir bhavati nashtaki. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So today we are presenting gems from Srimad Bhagavatam, and the verse today, the beautiful gem today is Canto 4, Chapter 30, verse 35. The chapter title is The Activities of the Prachetas. Yatre drente katham rishtas trishnaya prashamo yataha nirvaram yatra bhuteshu no dvego yatra kaschana. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Whenever pure topics of the transcendental world are discussed, the members of the audience forget all kinds of material hankerings, at least for the time being. Now, that not only that, but they are no longer envious of one another, nor do they suffer from anxiety or fear. Purport: Vaikuntha means without anxiety, and the material world means full of anxiety. As stated by Prahlad Maharaj, Sada samudvigna dhyam asat grahat. The living entities who have accepted this material world as a residence are full of anxiety. A place immediately becomes Vaikuntha whenever the holy topics of the personality of Godhead are discussed by pure devotees. This is the process of Sravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, chanting and hearing about the Supreme Lord Vishnu. As the Supreme Lord himself confirms, Naham tishtani Vaikunthe yogi nam hridayeshu va tatra tishtami narada yatra gayanti madbhaktaha. My dear Narad, actually I do not reside in my abode Vaikuntha, nor do I reside within the hearts of the yogis, but I reside in that place where my pure devotees chant my holy name and discuss my form, pastimes, and qualities. Now, I'm just reminded that once when we were reading this with some devotees, there was, some Westerners also, reading, and they were new to the class. So the person, when they repeat afterwards, he called it out as Yatra Gayanti Mad Bhakta. Yes, we are mad. So Mad Bhakta is my devotees. That's what Lord is saying. But we all laughed at this because we know as devotees, outsiders always consider devotees to be mad, to have given up all kind of material hankerings and taken to the devotional service. Continuing further on the purport. Because of the presence of the Lord in the form of the transcendental vibration, the Vaikuntha atmosphere is evoked. This atmosphere is without fear and anxiety. One living entity does not fear another. By hearing the holy names and glories of the Lord, a person executes pious activities. Shravanam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shamana Kirtanaha. Bhagavatam 1-17. Thus his material hankerings immediately stop. This Sankirtan movement started by the Society for Krishna Consciousness is meant for creating Vaikuntha, the transcendental world that is without anxiety even in this material world. The method is the propagation of the Sravanam Kirtanam process throughout the world. In the material world, everyone is envious of his fellow man. Animalistic envy exists in human society as long as there is no performance of Sankirtan Yajna, the chanting of the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The Prachitas therefore decided to remain always in the society of devotees, and they considered that to be the highest perfection benediction possible in human life. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please join us in reciting Srila Prabhupada Pranati and seeking blessings from the Acharyas. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshitayine Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tadaham Vande Shri Gurum Dina Taranam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So such is the beautiful verse that we are discussing today. And this verse is, of course, revealing some amazing facts to our very being, right? And when we read this verse, which basically says that whenever and also wherever pure topics of the transcendental world are discussed, the members of the audience, so whoever is hearing, they are benefited the most. They forget all kinds of material hankerings. And then Srila Prabhupada adds, at least for the time being. So it's again, material world is relative, but spiritual world is absolute. When we come to, discuss Krsna Katha and activities of and pastimes of the Lord, the name form activities, pastimes of the Lord, of course, then we are in Vaikuntha. But then there is a tendency to come back to this material universe because of different kind of afflictions or desires that we want to continue to fulfill. Now, in this regard, Srila Prabhupada puts this at least for the time being, which reminds me of the time when Srila Prabhupada, after the class, he was hearing the realization of various disciples, and one of his disciples said, Srila Prabhupada, when we are in Bhagavatam class, when we are in the temple, we are in Vaikuntha. But sometimes, we fall in for Maya, when we are in the outside world. Srila Prabhupada, he smiled and said, actually, most of the time you are in Maya. Only when you come to the temple, you are in Vaikuntha, because temple ground is an absolute platform. Yet, at the same time, we have seen that person may be in a different material world, but may be completely transcendently situated in devotional service, and thus, being in Krishna conscious, they would be in Vaikuntha. And also at the other end, we see persons who are in, holy places, in the temple, but they are discussing, they're gossiping about material things. And even in Vaikuntha, they're actually mentally, and in which is more substantial part of them, they are in the material world. They are not realizing the beauty of being present in the spiritual world. So this particular verse is helping us realize so many wonderful aspects of life. So anytime you want to become free of any kind of anxiety, now somebody can say, well, what are the causes of anxiety? There are basically two causes of anxiety, our Shastras reveal. One is lamentation, lamenting about the activities in the past. Oh, only if I had done so and so, I would have received a promotion, right? Or only if I had prepared very nicely, I would have passed the exam. Those kind of lamentations about the past is there, which causes anxiety, because the person is then trying to balance to what they are doing in the present. And then the next level of the second type of anxiety is akanksha, so aspiring for the future. So that also causes anxiety because you do not know that what's going on in the future. So the past is gone, yesterday is gone, tomorrow is a dream, and we forget to live in the present, which is the gift we have in our hand. And the best way to live in the present moment is through Sravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. So again, we have to engage in hearing, chanting, remembering the Supreme Personality of Lord Godhead, Lord Krishna, with his name, form, and activities of pastime. So we are engaging in these activities so that we can be free of anxiety. Which reminds me of a beautiful verse that Shukdev Goswami in the second canto reveals to Parikshit Maharaj. Tasmad Bharat Sarvatma Bhagwan Ishvara Hari Shotavya Kirtitavyasya Smartavyasya Chechatha Bhayam. So, Shukdev Goswami is telling that, my dear king, Parikshit, Bharat, the scion of Bharat Maharaj, the descendant of Bharat Maharaj. So, of course, we hear about Bharat Maharaj being, even Arjun being addressed as Bharat. The scion of Bharat is the translation by Srila Prabhupada in Bhagavad Gita as it is. So, and who is Parikshit Maharaj? He is grandson of Arjun and posthumous son of Abhimanyu. So here we see that Shukdev Goswami had revealed that. But then in that particular verse, Bhagwan Ishwara. So when we hear about what about Bhagwan Ishwari? Shrotavya Kirtitavyasya Smartavyasya. Shrotavya is hearing, Sravanam. Kirtitavyasya is chanting or glorifying, which is Kirtanam, glorifying Kirtanam. And Smartavyasya. So Smartavya is again remembering the Lord. And Ichatam Bhayam. So that kind of removes all kind of fears. So when he talked about fears, he skipped this piece that this particular verse covers, that when the anxieties are gone, then of course one becomes fearless. So one does not suffer from any anxiety or fear. And today we are presenting this gem from Srimadbhagavatam with an acronym PURE. P stands for purity of Krsna Katha, right? When you are hearing with these pure discussions of and glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, then it purifies the heart of all the people who are hearing. And thus, when the hearts are purified, one becomes, united with others. We are together. There is a common saying in India, 1 + 1 is 11. Which is true, because, you get extra strength because of someone else being part of, in the same discussion. So we all strengthen each other when we come together and hear the sweet pastimes of Lord Krishna. And why do I say sweet? That's also very important, because this particular verse, Srimadbhagavatam, we are covering, presenting the gems from Srimadbhagavatam, and today the verse is Canto 4, Chapter 30, verse 35. Because it talks about Yatre Dyante Katha Amrishthas. So Mrishthas is translated by Srila Prabhupada as pure. But we all know Mrishtha also has Mishti Dahi, Mrishthan Pandar. So sweet pastimes, that's also another meaning. Because these glories of Lord Krishna, his Kirtanam, is so sweet to hear, so sweet to relish. Right then and there we start to experience the sweetness that surround us when we are in this environment. And whenever there is sweetness, of course, we are all glorifying and we become united in our effort in glorifying the Supreme Lord. And so the environment, of course, becomes non-envious. And we all being united. So pure, P is for purity of Krishna Katha, which is, you could say, sweetness of Krishna Katha, that causes this purity in our hearts. And thus we all become united. U is for united through non-enviousness, united through common glorification, common purpose to appreciate the sweet pastimes of Lord and his devotees. And R is relief from fear and anxiety. And we talked about anxiety. There are two types of anxieties, lamentation as well as aspirations. So lamentation is about the past, aspirations for the future. And yes, there is a beautiful verse in Bhagavad Gita that talks about that one who is on a Brahmabhuta stage, what are they experiencing? Brahmabhuta prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samha sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. Brahmabhuta prasannatma. So the person who's on a Brahmabhuta stage, he's a prasannatma. He's always rejoicing. His soul is rejoicing. Let's just say, because we are soul, actually, we are not this body. So he is rejoicing. Why is he rejoicing? Na shochati, na kankshati. It does not lament about the past, so it does not live in the past. Na akankshati. It does not aspire for the future, so he's not living in the future. He's living at the present moment. But what are the activities in his present moment? Sama sarveshu bhuteshi. He is looking at all living entities with equal vision. That these all living entities have Paramatma, Lord Krishna, as super soul in everyone's heart, which means that everyone is very dear to Lord Krishna. They're not looking at their heart to say, oh, I'm dear to Lord Krishna. They're looking at everyone and realizing everyone is so dear to Lord Krishna. And Lord Krishna is most dear to me. So, of course, they are dear to me. So one becomes non-envious. Sama sarveshu bhuteshu. And what are the activities? Mad bhakti labhate param. Lord Krishna says that one engages in my devotion service. And that's where the 9 process of devotion service, Shavtam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada, Sevanam, Vachanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. So the 9 process of devotion service, they are engaged in. And thus, what happens? They achieve E for eternal satisfaction. So the soul feels complete fulfillment in service, in devotional service unto Lord Krishna. So this is something we are going to look and take a deeper dive, right, on this acronym PURE. P is for purity of Krsna Katha, U is for unity through non-enviousness, R is for relief from all fear and anxieties, and A is for eternal satisfaction. So this verse, it begins with Yatre Dante Katha Mrishtaha, where pure Krishna Katha is heard. And the Bhagavatam emphasizes that hearing Mrishta Katha, uncontaminated topics of Krishna is the very foundation of spiritual advancement. Now, what does purity mean? We talked about Mrishta. Mrishta also means sweet, right? But we are focusing on purity. So purity means free from material motivation, anya bilashita shunyam. Now, it's not anya bilasha shunyam. Anya bilashita means, yes, not having any material hankerings. We're not looking for anything. But we also take shelter of Lord Krishna. So he's a protector, he's a maintainer. So just like a child depends on father. Now, sometimes people say, how could devotees become fearless? What is an example? Can you give us some analogy? Srila Prabhupada gives so many wonderful analogies in this regard. So if you were to ask, on a highway or, in a busy road, you ask a small 5-year-old to cross the road. What to talk about asking a 3-year-old or 2-year-old to cross the road? They would be like scared to death. They would be like, oh, I cannot cross it. There's so many big cars and trucks and vehicles coming this way. I cannot cross. They would not be comfortable. But at the same time, you see a small child, just 3 or 4-year-old, holding his father's hand, is completely fearless. And the father is crossing, and he's crossing with the father because he has full, confidence in his father that his father will protect him. In this regard, there is also a beautiful story that's, a real life story that comes in. That once, there was a plane was going and storms hit it. It had to face the storm, and suddenly the whole plane was shaking. And everyone was, calling out, in anxiety and fear, this is happening, that is happening. Some people were taken to the chanting, some people were praying to the Lord for protection and so forth. one person was observing that there was a small girl. She was sitting and very calm and smiling, and she's completely relaxed. So he was a bit surprised that everyone is fearful, but this girl seems to be completely fearless. So he inquired once, the plane crossed the storm, everything was calm. He's like, I saw everyone panicking, but you were smiling, you were completely calm, not fearing anything. The girl, she just smiled. So he said, what is the reason? How could you be, not panicking? This was a life and death situation. She said, you know what? The pilot of the plane, the captain of the plane is my father. And he knows that I'm his daughter is on this plane. So he will do his very best to make sure that I'm protected. And that, makes me fearless. And now that was a great revelation, because when we have taken shelter, so when we are sanat, when we have taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, then of course we are protected. But when we have not taken shelter of a master who is absolute, or who is a servant of the absolute, so again, that's why the disciplic succession comes, and we accept a spiritual master and take shelter of the spiritual master. And when the spiritual master is not present, we take shelter of his instructions. Just like, many devotees, they still recall Srila Prabhupada's instructions and Acharya's instructions, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Jiva Goswami Thakur. They have given so many wonderful, wonderful instructions that we can take. And in Nectar of Devotion, we say Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, revealing so many instructions that we can take shelter of and make our life sublime and our existence pure. And when we are hearing, when we are speaking, when we are remembering, we are doing all these activities in the spirit of devotion, in the spirit of service, that this is meant for me, this is meant for my benefit. And Srila Prabhupada, he would often refer to, such experiences. He would say that the more we hear Srimadbhagavatam, right, the more our hearts become cleansed of all dirty things, and the more we become fixed in devotional service. So we become focused, just like a laser is focused instead of, so this is a very targeted effort. And in 11th canto, Lord Dattatreya, he's talking about his 24 spiritual masters that he is taking lessons from. And there's a blacksmith. His example, he's making an arrow. He's making this arrow with so much focus that afterwards his neighbor comes and he says, oh, that was a wonderful procession that went out. And he was like, what? I didn't see any. He's like, didn't you see the king, his courtesans and everyone, and the big band playing? He's like, no, I was so focused on making this arrow perfect that I didn't pay attention anyway. So yes, that is focus. Another example of focus is, a sage, he was meditating. He was meditating on Brahman. He wants to become nil. He wants to become zero. As he's meditating, he suddenly gets knocked off and he opens his eyes in anger. Look, he's meditating to become nil, but the moment he is attacked, he becomes angry. Who disturbed me? And he sees that a lady, she was running on her way and knocked him off, as she was running. He's like, I'm a great sage. Couldn't she see I'm in meditation? How could she kick me? So then suddenly he sees that same lady walking towards him. So now he's like in anticipation. Last time she kicked me. Is she going to punch me? Is she going to, rebuke me? What is she going to do? And the further strange thing was, as soon as she comes close, she pays obeisances to him. She says, oh, dear sage, please bless me. It's like, what kind of duplicity is this? While going, you knocked me off, while running. And now you're paying obeisances, asking for blessings. Then the lady says, actually, it is my fault. I was going to meet my lover and I could not think of anything but my lover. So that's why when I was going, I didn't see you. But while I'm coming back after having met him, I observed that you are in meditation and I want to seek your blessings. So now the sage also realized that the meditation of this lady was much higher than his meditation to merge into Brahman. So we have to understand the power of devotion service. If material attraction can cause so much focus, imagine how much the spiritual attraction can cause the purification that it can help us grow in our heart. So unless our hearts become purified by hearing about Krishna from the realized source. And Bhagavatam is a realized scripture. So we are hearing from realized source. And through this, one cannot relish the nectar of Krishna's activities. So we have to understand that when we go through Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada said his purpose are his spiritual ecstasies. So again, those are his emotions that he has poured down. Late night he was hardly sleeping, 1.5 to 2.5 hours. And for our benefit, he was writing Bhagavatam. So here, the purity is being stressed. And purity in hearing and chanting is the greatest weapon to fight illusion. Now, this is something very important that Srila Bhakti Swami, he is revealing that when we absorb in pure spiritual sound, it restructures our consciousness towards love, not towards lust. It takes us away from lust and focuses on love. So just by one action, doesn't have to remove lust, it just has to redirect those emotions toward Krishna and get them purified. So those are the important aspects. Now, sometimes people are selective, right? A devotee could complain saying, "Oh, Prabhu, I hear classes every day, but still I don't feel purified." Well, the response is, where are you sitting when you're hearing classes? The response could be, I'm sitting at the back, sometimes near the prasadam counter. Well, our response would be, then your ears are on Krishna, but your stomach is on prasadam, right? So again, you are attracted by other things, so you are not able to give your attention. So the purity comes when we are attentive. That's why my spiritual master, my Guru Maharaj, he would say, are you chanting attentively? Are you doing attentive chanting of the holy name? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So attention is the key. And then the door become wide open of Vaikuntha if we are focusing with attention. And of course, sometimes people are in so much speed, they want to finish Bhagavatam as soon as possible. Sometimes they are saying, oh, whenever I hear Bhagavatam, I'm doing it twice the speed. Well, are you going deep in Bhagavata than rushing through the surface? There is a lot more to discover in ocean when you go into the depths of the ocean. If you're just crossing the top, then you're only seeing the waves and you're missing out the true treasure that's beneath those waves. So we have to dive into these waves, and this diving into the waves is going through the purpose of Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas. They have given amazing purpose to Bhagavatam, which also encourages us to go and read Puranas, to read other Upanishads and so forth, to again further deepen on understanding of the sweetness in Lord Krishna's name, form, activities, pastimes. And sometimes people say, when I hear Bhagavatam, I fall asleep instantly. Yes, it happens, especially in the beginning. That's a symptom of early engagement, because Maya is so strong, you're trying to leave Maya. Maya says, you know what? You're completely in my control. I just make you go to sleep. But then she sees her determination again and again coming to the class. Then she says, maybe this person is serious. Maybe Krishna wants him to be awakened and not just wants him to be resting. So we should understand that in the beginning, yes, we may feel like when we are going to Krsna Katha, we are having a bed instead of a seat in the Zoom call. And that's perfectly normal. We have to just make our effort. Lord Krishna says, Nimitra Mata Bhavisavjachin. We are just an instrument, and he sees the sincerity in our heart. And thus he will allow us to become further purified. So in the beginning, yes, when you try to clean the room, a lot of dust comes up, more than you even imagine. But if you continue to clean, slowly and slowly, the room becomes clean. So again, that overwhelming dust and all that stuff, all those impurities, they make us wonder, oh, I don't realize, I did not realize that there's so much anarthas in my heart. And when we engage in devotional service, sometimes without even realizing, Krishna has cleaned it all up. So we have to be, fully surrendered, fully attentive to the best of our abilities, right? And sometimes when people are looking for shortcuts, they talk about, oh Prabhu, Bhagavatam, 18,000 verses. Can I just read the summary of Bhagavatam instead of the whole thing? Well, our response will be, that's just like eating the menu instead of the feast. So what would you like? Do you want to have the feast, or do you want to just eat up the menu card itself? So purity means relishing the full nectar, not shortcuts. That is also very much, in the proper way. So there is a way to do things. There's a method to the madness, as people say, that we have to take to heart. And so we can look at in our daily practices, what can we do? How can we improve our attentiveness? So we can focus on, hey, what was the last time I heard Krishna Katha with full attention, right? And how did it transform me? Sometimes people talk about, oh, there was this Bhagavatam class going on, and the speaker was so effulgent and this and that. Yes, all that stuff is amazing. Srila Prabhupada said, yes, in current and during his times also, there were many speakers who were very affluent speakers who would present, but they would actually try to present their ideas in the name of Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam. Here we want to glorify Bhagavatam, we want to glorify Krishna and his devotees in parampara. So we have to be very much pure at heart instead of just nice to hear. So again, we are looking at hearing, and we should also be asking that, am I hearing to enjoy intellectually or to serve Krishna with all my heart? What is the purpose of hearing Krishna Katha? And how can I set aside some sacred time daily for pure hearing? Again, every speaker means, again, all the devotees, they know that you have to hear for 4 to 6 hours every day to be able to speak, for 1 hour every week. So again, that's just the way it goes, because it is by hearing that we get purified and get the blessings from Lord Krishna, so that we can speak some few words, about on his glory. So again, we can take two different type of practices, and these are basic tips that I especially use. Daily Srimad Bhagavatam reading. Even a single verse with purport, we have to read it with attention. We should take notes. Writing one takeaway after each class, it deepens our absorption. We are pre-hearing prayers, right? So let me hear to serve and please you, Krishna, so that when we do the invocation prayers, when we seek Srila Prabhupada's blessing through his pranati and Acharya's blessings, then we are in this mood of serving, not in the mood of taking. And hearing companions is also very important. So we can also always discuss one point, from the class with a friend, and afterwards, or share, purity multiplies. So again, this is how it happens. And we can reduce distractions around us, keep phones away, turn them on do not disturb, and sometimes just sit near the speakers. Sometimes we say, yeah, people, they have the tendency of, sitting near the speaker, but we are on Zoom, so we can be near the speaker of our, laptops or phones, and keep a focused posture. We can be attentive from those perspectives. So this transformation, this first transformation of pure is purity of Krishna Katha, which comes from our attentive and pure way of listening. So when our hearing is sincere, our hearts naturally, they become cleansed. And this leads us to the next stage of transformation. What's that stage? U is for unity through non-enviousness. So because if there is no envy towards each other, we all become united in attentively hearing Krishna Katha, and we feel genuine joy in seeing each other serve Krishna. We are hand in hand together. So let's look at you with unity through non-enviousness. In this verse, there was this phrase, Nirvairam yatra bhuteshu, where there is no envy among living entities, at least for the time being. Srila Prabhupada nicely puts it. So by hearing Bhagavatam daily, we talked about this, that All that is troublesome. Nashta prayasha baddeshu nityam bhagavata sevaya. Bhagavatiruttam shloke bhaktir. Bhavti nashtiki. Nashtiki means it is guaranteed. There is no doubt we will get bhakti. But, also all kind of anarthas, they are destroyed. And loving service to the Lord is established as an irrevocable fact. So one major troublesome element is envy. Srila Narottam Das Thakur, he would say, you cannot use envy. You can use all other kind of anarthas to dovetail in Krishna service. Arjun used anger as a Kshatriya to fight the battle of Kurukshetra. So yes, anger on its own is anartha, but when used in Krishna service, it becomes a service. Because how can you fight without being angry at the other person? So you can use everything except envy. Then Bhaktivinoda Thakur comes in. He says, you know what? You can actually use envy in Krishna service by becoming envious of, the materialistic, the way they are looking at things in their lives and so forth. So in the spiritual community, envy is replaced with anukampa, right? Mutual compassion and support. So when we are mutually compassionate towards each other and support each other in our service, then of course that appears, to be very much disturbing the envious people, and it replaces envy in our heart. And when devotees, they rejoice in others' service rather than compete, the temple becomes Vaikuntha. And this reminds me of Vajradham, is again Vrindavan, where the gopis, they would glorify each other for their services. They would say, oh, Tungavitya, you did such wonderful service. So, Indulekha, you are so nicely, decorating Radharani and so forth. So they are glorifying each other's services. And what they're also hoping is, may I get an opportunity to learn from them, right? So they are ready to take everyone as their spiritual master, as their teachers, as their mentors. So this is the mood. Always be in a servitude mood. That's why Lord Krishna says to Arjuna on the battlefield, Nimitra matam bhavya savyasachin. We are but an instrument. Now the interesting thing is, sometimes we receive an instrument and we misuse that instrument. So this body is an instrument in Krishna's service, but we have the tendency to engage this body in Maya's service instead of Krishna's service. Krishna Surya Sama Maya he andhikarak, jahan Krishna taha nahi Maya radhikara. But we, because of our choices, our life is made of basically choices, the choices we make. That's what is paving the path forward. And when we make choices in, mood of lust, then we suffer. When we make choices in the mood of love for Lord Krishna, then we, unsuffer, we resurface. So the root cause of material existence is envy of Krishna. So when we become envious of devotees, we remain in illusion. So that is also very important. Now, we talked about various type of namaprats. We talked about various type of janaprats even. Now, aparad on its own is offense, but it means against Radha, which means we are acting against Radha. It's not like we are part of the Chandravali camp. No. Chandravali is twin of Radha, right? So they're twins, Radharani and Chandravali. If Chandravali and Radharani, they close their eyes, even Krishna may have trouble identifying which one is Chandravali, which one is Radha. They are so identical. Of course, he can read the facial expression, because Radharani has surrender, but she also has man. But Chandravali is all surrender. So it's very interesting when these personalities appear in Dwarka. They appear as Rukmini and Satyabhama. And all of a sudden, Rukmini is an expansion of Chandravali, and she is all surrender and becomes very dear to Krishna. While Satyabhama, who is an expansion of Radharani, Lord Krishna sometimes becomes angry with her. Why? Because this is Radharani in the Aishwarya Bhav, this expansion of Radharani. So it causes Satyabhama to become proud of her father's wealth because of the Samantaka jewel that he received from sun god. So she is very much, sometimes even trying to give weight equal to the weight of gold, equal to the weight of Krishna. Those pastimes are there too. And the god doesn't make the proper measurement, then Rukmini comes and she places 2 tulsi leaves, and suddenly, boom, Krishna is lifted. Otherwise, Satyabhama was just loading gold after gold after gold. She told Devashi Narad, I will give you gold of the weight of Krishna, because by mistake, she said, I'll give you Krishna. And then he said, "Oh, I love to have Krishna." So then she realized the mistake. She said, "No, no, what I mean is, I'll give you gold equal to the weight of Krishna." And Devashi Narad knew Lord Krishna is Parameshwar, nothing can equal his weight. So as Satyabhama was loading loads and loads of great amounts of gold on one side, Lord Krishna's side was still down. He wasn't budging. And then Satyabhama was panicking. She was like, "I'm going to run out of gold. I don't have any more gold. What do I do?" And at that time, Rukmini, she comes and she places 2 leaves of tulsi. Poof! So the tulsi leaves are showing the devotion. And when a devotee is approaching Krishna, Krishna says, "By your devotion, you have bought me." So again, provided we are in that true mood of surrender. So that's why the purity of heart is very important. So devotees by nature are not envious, right? So if one sees a devotee advancing more than himself, he should be very happy. That should be the mood. We should be, praying to the Lordship that this devotee is so nice, he should progress further and so forth. So not that, let me pull him down so that I can go. We call that as PhDs, pull him down or pull her down. So those kind of things, they happen. But of course, we understand that the people who have really done PhDs, they have made a lot of effort. And sometimes even devotees, we have PhD programs. When you go to Bombay, again, we have the self-contained village. I'm trying to remember the name, but again, they are devotees who are doing PhD programs. Even Srila Prabhupada said, so this is school level, Bhagavad Gita. Then comes undergrad degree, reading Srimadbhagavatam. Then comes graduation and PhD, reading Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, a Vaishnava is a paradukha dukhi. That is the mood of a Vaishnava, of a devotee. He does not envy anyone, but feels compassion for all. That's the mood Srila Prahlad Maharaj, he reveals. He is saying that, "Oh my dear Lord, these fools and rascals in this world." So Srila Prabhupada in his purport sometimes uses these words to say that they do not know what is right and what is wrong. So I want to deliver them. That's the mood of a devotee. Devotees go at great lengths to help others advance in Krishna consciousness. So a son who brings other lost sons and daughters back to the father becomes happy that other sons and daughters are coming, but he becomes more happy with the son who's making effort to bring others to him. Right? So we should never be envious. And there are sometimes we do see that, people who are in some level of material aspirations, they become envious of others. And so much so that they could say, "Oh, only if this particular singer who is singing so nicely, if his next time he could sing a little off tune, off key, that will make me feel better." That's the kind of thing people are thinking. That's not the mood. Rather, a devotee feels if someone is singing nicely, "Oh, my dear Lord, he's singing so nicely, let him become more sweet, so that you become happy." And, you become happy with him. I am hearing your glories and I'm feeling the purification happening in my heart. So, of course, you are becoming happy with me too. So, of course, these are the things in unity we should be thinking of. We should talk about, like, when was the last time I genuinely rejoiced at another devotee's success? What situations trigger envy in my heart? We should always watch out for those. How can I continuously replace envy with appreciation? Always turn it around. All we have to do is dovetail our emotions in favor of Krishna in mood of service. And how can I encourage this week to strengthen unity in my community? Come unity. So community is not less unity, it is supposed to be more unity. So again, commonly united. That's what community is. And we can, introduce some daily appreciation, consciously appreciate at least one devotee daily. Right? We should glorify and make it a habit and speak positively about devotees in gatherings. We should glorify them. And we should have service rotation. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada, he would have the different members of the temple community do different services. That way, they start to respect diverse contributions that others are making. And Sometimes we can even do unity exercises. So again, we are educators and we do some seminars and we do some fun activities, right? So those also enable us to become united because we have the purpose is to serve Krishna. And we can chant together, we can do kirtan together without competition for the pleasure of Krishna. And we pray for others' success. Everyone prays for their success. But we should learn to pray for others' success because that forms the envy into blessings. So again, this is also something very important. And as we grow further, what happens when we are united in purpose? We receive relief from fear and anxiety because there is no lamentation, there is no aspiration. We are just in the present moment serving Lord Krishna and glorifying Him. So this is R, which is helping us become means again getting relief from all kind of anxieties. And anxieties are the cause of fear. So this is where we have to understand that the fear and anxiety, they come from turning away from Lord and identifying with the temporary. So again, Krishna is Surya Sama. So when we are facing Krishna, we cannot see darkness, we can only see light. But when we keep our back to Krishna, the sun is in our back, then we see our shadow. And sometimes we have the tendency, because of the shadow and the impact it has, we think, oh, I'm moving, oh, the shadow is moving, so the shadow is me. We start forgetting who we really are, and we start to think of this body, which is the shadow, as an instrument. Because we have turned it away from Krishna, we are using it in the service of Maya. So we are servant. Jivera Suruphoya Krishnera Nityadas. So we are eternal servant of Lord Krishna, but in illusion, we become our mood is of servant. We cannot change that. But we become servant of Maya. We become servant of our senses. That's what Maya is. So yes, we have discovered the truth, who the enemy is, and the enemy is us, this body, these senses. When they are not engaged in Krishna Katha, they are engaged in Maya Katha. They are engaged in distressful activities, which are causing all temporary limitations and fearfulness and anxieties in our life. So we receive relief through Krishna Katha. That is our true solace, right? This acts as spiritual medicine. We have to understand that when we are healing the disease condition of the heart, that produces constant worry and insecurity. Now, sometimes it's easily said than done, which reminds me of a sweet story. So once there was a mother and she was very religious, but her son was not so religious. But then she decided to, somehow engage her son, who was a grown up, he was a family man, to engage him in his service. He said, there's a great sadhu, great sage is visiting the next village. So every morning it is your duty to take me to that sadhu so that I can hear the glorification of Lordship. I can hear Krishna Katha, and every evening you can bring me. It's summer vacation, you are a teacher, you don't have anything to do, so you can just take me there. We can spend nice day there, have nice prasadam, and come back in the evening. The son was reluctant, but he said, you know what? I've got nothing else to do. It's my summer vacation. I'm, not working at this time anyway. Yeah, I can take my mother over there and we can all enjoy the day, have some feasting, and then come back in the evening. It would be nice drive there and nice drive back. Everything would be nice. So he would take his mother. So first day they went, and he was not so much interested. He was more interested in, what is in the menu today? What's prasadam today and all that. And he was interested in meeting his old friends, and he was engaged in gossip. So every evening when they would come back, mother would ask his son, what did he remember from the day? And he had very little to contribute. So she would again repeat many of those important lessons so that he could understand those. And there was a parrot, a pet parrot, and that parrot was attentively hearing. And so a week passed. Now next week is starting. So parent, he had a request. He said to the son, mother would ask the son to feed the parrot. So the parrot said, thank you for feeding me, but could you ask him a question? And the son says, what does a parrot have to ask a sage? The parrot said, could you please ask the sage, how can I be, free of all anxieties? So the son said, okay, I'll ask. And next day when they went, the son asked the sage after the Bhagavatam class that my parrot has a question. How can he be free of anxieties? As soon as the sage heard this, he fell down from his platform shook up a little bit and then fainted. Everyone became scared and they came and sprinkled water on the sage and made sure he's okay. And then the sage regained his consciousness. And then everyone told him, don't disturb him. You ask very difficult questions. You ask such questions which are very bad. And so he's like, that's very strange. What happened here? So he goes back home that evening, and now this time he remembers what happened, right? This is an event you can't forget easily. He said, I asked you a question. You know what happened? The sage just, fell from his platform and he just was shaking as if he's getting an anxiety attack, and then he just fainted. And, then we had to bring him back to senses, and I didn't want to further ask the second time. So the parrot thanked him. He said, thank you very much. So next morning, as mother and son, they are ready to leave, what do they see? The parrot is dead. It's like its legs are up, it's falling, inside the cage, upside down. So he's like, oh no, the parrot died. Mother said, you must have forgotten to feed the parrot. You starved him to death. And so now this discussion is going on, and he's thinking, oh, we should try to do something because we have to leave. We have to, the mother is forcing him. So he opens the cage and suddenly parrot wakes up and flies out. Now he's shocked. He's like, what just happened? So this time he's upset and he's like, I'm going to ask this sage, what did he tell him? What did he tell my parrot? So he went that day with mother, and at the end of the class, he said, you know what, this is what happened. Yesterday I asked the question, you fell from your platform, you shook, you fainted, and then everyone chastised me. I go home, I tell the parrot, and the parrot appears to have been dead in the morning. I open the cage and suddenly he flies off. What's going on here? So Sage said, you know what, you have been coming to this Bhagavatam class for weeks, but you couldn't understand one simple thing. That parrot asked one simple question, and that was the door for his deliverance. So we have to understand, attentively hearing enables us to reawaken Krishna's mercy in our life, right? And so we get relief through Krsna Katha, and we can look at various examples, right? Arjun in the battlefield, before hearing Bhagavad Gita, Arjun was trembling, he was anxious, and he was overwhelmed with emotions. But after hearing Krishna's words, his fear turned into confidence and clarity. Like Prahlad Maharaj, in the face of death, and who's, giving the orders to kill him? His own father, Kashyapa. He was summoned by demons and his angry father, right? But Prahlad Maharaj was fearless and absorbed in chanting of Lord's glory. So we can look at in our lives, so many things happen. Hare Krishna. The fear comes when we are disconnected from Krishna. So we have to connect to Krishna. So we have to take shelter of Krishna. Connecting means taking shelter. We have to give full attention, engage our senses in Krsna Katha, name, form, activities, pastimes, and devotional service. That's the mood. The sound vibration of his holy name is the direct embrace of the Lord. So when we hear, when we chant, when we remember, the fear dissolves like darkness before the sun. That is the sweetness. So again, how can we look at it from our daily activities? The daily hearing of Srimadbhagavatam is to strengthen remembrance of Krishna. So again, chanting attentively, especially when feeling stressed or anxious. Anytime we feel disturbed, we have to calm our mind, we have to calm ourselves, and best medicine is chant and be happy. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And sometimes we can ask ourselves, we can write down, what is the biggest anxiety right now? How can I apply Krsna Katha in this situation? So in this way, we can become relieved from various kind of anxieties. We can look at our life and we can see from the lives of devotees. Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is all about the stories about the devotees of the Lord. We can finally get E, which is eternal satisfaction. So that is what we are looking for. Anand Bhaya Abhisat. We are all looking for happiness. But you cannot be happy unless you are peaceful, unless you are satisfied at heart. So that's where eternal satisfaction comes. And the spiritual bliss is experienced when we are engaged. So again, in Krsna Katha, in Lord Krishna's devotional service. So Srimad Bhagavatam, it assures that only through hearing and chanting of Krsna Katha, can one find lasting peace and joy. So the Lord himself says in Bhagavad Gita, Yam labdva chaparam labham manyate nadhikam tataha. So upon gaining this, one thinks there is no greater gain. So that is also very important. And we're talking about, we feel satisfaction. Also, we don't want to commit any offenses because, the familiarity breeds contempt. So there are 6 types of Vaishnava Prad. Did you know? Well, Hanti, Nindanti, Vaidveshti, Vaishnava na Abhinandanti, Krudyate, Yadi na harsham darshane patataniyat. So there are 6 types of Vaishnava Prads. Hanti means trying to harm a devotee. Nindanti, blaspheming a devotee, And devotee never said. Sometimes there is like, this is our scriptures. We want to study the scriptures. You are welcome to study your scriptures, but we want to follow some specific type of scriptures, some specific type of teachings. Sometimes people come with other type of scriptures and we say, please, forgive us. We would like to stay. And this is just as a precaution. We are not envious of them. We are just respecting our scriptures. We are all ears to hear the glories of the Lord, yet at the same time, bona fide scriptures is what we are looking at. Yes, there may be bona fide other scriptures as well, like Bible and Quran. And we are trying to be focused, not get scattered away, because mind is very vicious at times, when you try to scatter in multiple directions. We understand those. We have to be fearful of Maya. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he would say sometimes, my disciples are not so much fearful of Maya. So we learn from Srila Prabhupada's lessons and to his instructions that we have to stay focused. And it's not that we don't read Puranas. Yes, they are in lineage. This is Bhagavad Purana. So we read Puranas, Padma Purana and Vishnu Purana, filled with greater depths. We are taking deeper dives into the stories that are covered in Bhagavatam at a very high level. So yes, we like to do that. So here we are saying that the spiritual bliss, it causes lasting peace and joy in our heart. And Hanti is harming, Nindanti is blaspheming the devotees, and Dveshti, becoming envious of devotees, that's also an aprad. And not welcoming a Vaishnava. Vaishnava na anuvandanti. So again, welcoming a Vaishnava is also an offense, not welcoming a Vaishnava. So not proper giving a welcome. So when we see a Vaishnava, we should smile, we should pay obeisances, we should, if they're at the same level as us, we should embrace them. If they're elder than us, we should pay obeisances to them. And if not directly, then at least through our heart. And when they are junior to us, then we should be compassionate towards them and help them in their progress, right? So again, and krudyante means, again, becoming angry at devotee. That's also an aprad. And these are the 6 kind of offenses to the Vaishnavas. Na hashyanti darshanam. So again, when we see the devotees, we don't become joyful. That's also an offense. So again, my dear devotees, there are so many wonderful lessons we can learn. And we today are covering purity of Krsna Katha. P is to cleanse ourselves through purity of Krsna Katha. U is unity through non-enviousness, which binds us in affection. R is relief from fear and anxiety, so that grants us real peace and joy. And finally, E is for eternal satisfaction, which fulfills the heart completely. So we discover the true essence of devotional life. Now, sometimes people say, oh, it would be nice if somebody can summarize this, right? So if you were to take 10 takeaway, take home messages, what would you take? And again, that's my ask to you is, but I'll give you some hints that you can take. Hearing is healing. Every moment of Krsna Katha cleanses the disease of the heart. Purity is power. Contaminated topics weaken pure discussions and power. So those are just the 2 faces of the coin. Unity is beauty. So where envy ends, community blossoms. Aprad is a virus. Guard against it or it will crush our bhakti system. So we have to be very much, because aprad means against Radha. Fear is fiction. Anxiety disappears when Krishna becomes the focus. Satisfaction is service. So again, real joy comes from serving, not hoarding or boarding or taking over. Bhakti is contagious, right? Stay close to the devotees and catch the holy infection. And time is precious. Don't waste it on gossip. Invest it in Krsna Katha now, better than any other time. Maya is persistent. She never gives up because that's her duty to make sure that she is testing every living entity. But when we are hearing about Krishna, it's the perfect caller ID block. So again, when we get cold calls from Maya, we can have the caller ID block by hearing about Krishna. And love pure makes our life pure. So again, you can make our life pure by keeping Krishna Katha at the center. Hare Krishna. So we always live pure, purity of Krishna Katha, unity in non-enviousness, relief from fear and eternal satisfaction. So our hearts become fit places for Radha Krishna to reside eternally. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. This is the important gem that we wanted to share today. Thank you so much for joining us. Hare Krishna. Gantra Srimadbhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhagavad ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna Devi.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. So we would like to conclude this Zoom session now. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Have a wonderful week in Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.